Dreams versus spoken language, and that the dream world for sure must be the basically the quantum loading space for perception. So when we start seeing transformations, as we've been seeing transformations now, and I even feel like we are in a different space, but that seems to not have much to do with, I don't feel, what necessarily is going on outside. Because if I was in just sitting by the river and never turning on the TV, then the frequency is going to maintain a certain wavelength. It seems to be what's going on inside, and when something's going on inside, how it's reflecting on me. And I guess the main way of putting this is when this whole thing started breaking out with the whole COVID. I remember in a dream getting on a bus and wondering if people had COVID on the bus. So it was like somehow, and this was not even being like, I'm not following this stuff, not reading this stuff. You hear about it, you move on. But for me, I was like, seeing it in the dream, and now it was kind of being embedded as a part of my dream. I also start seeing when people were passing away, when they were saying, a lot of these people are dying, all these people are dying. I, again, experienced that the dream world was getting very cluttered. And it was like all the mind states it was just like, it wasn't as organized or cohesive at all. You see what I mean? So this is probably because that's all there really is to begin with, really, is that realm that we call the dream space, and everything else is actually being projected from there. So when it comes to any kind of manipulation or embedding, that's where it would take place. And this kind of would hint to why, because still we're talking about that these are frequencies, that when you get into a lower vibrational frequency, I notice even for me, it always seems to load somewhat of the same type of dream. This dream always has to do with like off-world, kind of like off-world government agencies chasing me. You see what I mean? And it always kind of starts off like that. And I'm like running the whole dream using clever ways of escaping them, all this kind of stuff. But I recognize, I'm like, it's weird that this dream always loads. But it always loads in a specific frequency. So let's talk about when we're entering low vibrations, right? So I know that you can enter a low vibration pretty easy through alcohol. So if you drink, right, and then you go to sleep, it's just like your food for these things. It's like every single thing that you could think of that could happen bad starts to unfold within the dream, right? Then there's another one when you're sexually spent. So if you just continue to keep emptying, you will lower your vibration enough to when you get in the dream world, it will just keep rolling out that dream that you have a tendency not to like to see. So you can then kind of demark that when you start having those dreams, it means that you actually came in contact with something that has taken your frequency into that wavelength. It could be certain types of food. It could be food that you're eating from certain people. It could be certain things that you're eating or whatever. But either way, we're seeing that the lower vibratory frequency is like a net of its own that contains the framework of those artificial eidolons that now can mesh into your framework. Right. And the reason why they cannot do that on a high vibratory frequency is because of what's kind of explained in the Quran, that the higher you keep getting in this, you're only then attracting or actually becoming receptive to higher intelligences. And they're not into that whole low vibratory, let's see him run for 5 or 6 hours. Let's see them sweat and go through this abuse, this kind of thing, because that's that vibratory field. And all these vibratory fields are doing, as we mentioned before, before we demonize them and understand their purposes, they're just trying to inhabit that space in the web. So they're making up that huge web or tapestry or embroidery that we call life. But they also have their light on too. Like, we need more inhabitants of this frequency. So anytime you get caught in those lower vibratory fields, they're going to recruit you right into being a host for transference of the life of the thoughts and the visions, the pictographs, and the symbols of that realm. So this is kind of how all of this would work in real time, because at every point, something is dreaming. There's animals, man, they be sleep. These animals be sleep, big sleep. And just all into the dream world. Like, have you ever watched your dog over there? He just, like, he's a human in this dream. And this is what I was saying again about there's something also odd and fishy going on behind the scenes with transference and what we call even time. That what feels like 24 hours a day for us, 1 hour in the dream world for us may be an entire life of us hosting the thoughts of another life form. But I'll desist on those kind of visions and leave those for the scholars.